New York in February smells like wet pavement, espresso, and ambition. Fashion Week always does that to the city. It sharpens everything. I stood outside the venue on West 36th Street, arms folded tight inside my wool coat, watching black SUVs unload editors, buyers, and influencers like royalty. Cameras flashed. Names were whispered. Dreams were either born or buried inside those doors. I should have been inside. I used to be. My name is Arden Soles, and for 5 years, I was the invisible backbone of Virence, a rising luxury fashion label everyone suddenly pretends appeared out of nowhere. But nothing about that brand was accidental, especially not the collection they were about to show. I know because I designed it. 3 months earlier, my desk still sat beneath the north-facing windows of our studio in Soho. Morning light spilled across fabric swatches, charcoal sketches, and my half-drunk coffee. I loved those mornings, the quiet before chaos, before fittings and emails and creative compromises. That day, I was finishing the final revisions for our fall collection. Clean silhouettes, structured shoulders, a recurring motif of asymmetry, strength without apology. It was personal. Every line felt like a declaration. I sent the updated designs to Julian Crest, our creative director, like I always did. Subject line, final concepts, AS. He replied 10 minutes later. Let's talk later today. No emoji, no notes, just that. My stomach tightened, but I told myself not to spiral. Julian was mercurial. Brilliant, people said. Visionary. I'd learned early that his moods were weather systems, unpredictable, but survivable. By noon, HR emailed me a calendar invite titled Organizational Update. That's when I knew. Julian didn't look at me when I walked into the conference room. He sat at the head of the table, hands folded, jaw clenched. HR sat beside him, smiling in that way that never reaches the eyes. Arden, Julian said finally, exhaling like I was already exhausting him. This isn't working anymore. I blinked. What isn't? Our direction, your energy, the cohesion. Cohesion. The word echoed like a slap. I've led design for 3 seasons, I said carefully. The brand's growth was a team effort, he cut in. But we're moving forward with a different vision. Different vision. My designs lay printed in a neat stack in front of him. I recognized the top page immediately, the asymmetric coat with the hidden seam detail I'd spent weeks perfecting. I looked at it, then at him. Are you firing me? I asked. Julian nodded once. Clean, clinical. HR slid a folder toward me. Severance, NDA, a silence clause, thick enough to choke on. You'll be compensated fairly, she said. Fairly. I signed because I was in shock. Because my hands were shaking. Because I thought this was the end of something. But not a theft. 2 weeks later, I saw the teaser. Virence, Fall Collection Preview. Designed by Julian Crest. The image froze my breath. It was my coat. Not inspired by, not similar. Mine. Same seam, same shoulder architecture, same hidden fastening I'd never seen anywhere else. I refreshed the page. Then again. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped something vital out of me. No, I whispered to my empty apartment. I pulled up my laptop, opened my archives, sketches, files, dates, metadata. I'd been obsessive. Version control, timestamps, backups. A habit Julian once mocked. Paranoid much, Arden? He'd laughed. I laughed too. Not anymore. The confirmation came fast and brutal. Lookbook images leaked. Influencers teased fittings. The collection had a name. Solace. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. My last name, stripped, repurposed, claimed. It wasn't just theft. It was erasure. I wanted to scream, to call him, to break something. Instead, I sank onto the floor, back against the couch, breath coming in shallow pulls. 5 years of late nights, of compromises, of letting him take credit because that's how the industry works. I told myself exposure mattered more than ownership. That proximity to power was enough. I was wrong. I wasn't invisible because I lacked talent. I was invisible because I let them keep me that way. Now, outside the venue, the city pulsed around me. Music thumped faintly through the walls. A countdown echoed from inside. 10 minutes to showtime. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You watching? I didn't need to ask who it was. I typed back with steady fingers. Every second. Across the street, a giant digital screen flickered to life, displaying the opening look. My opening look. Applause erupted inside the building. I felt something shift inside me. Not pain this time, but clarity. They thought they'd buried me. They forgot one thing. I still had the receipts, and the world was about to see them. Live. The first model stepped onto the runway wearing my coat. The asymmetric lapel caught the light exactly the way I'd intended. The hidden seam curved like a quiet defiance. Every detail was mine, down to the stitch density I'd argued for when production complained about cost. The crowd leaned in. Editors scribbled. Phones lifted. Applause rolled like a tide. I stood across the street, frozen, watching my work walk without me. You don't get to grieve yet, I whispered to myself. Not until they see the truth. I walked away from the venue before the second look hit the runway. I couldn't afford to be swallowed by the moment. Emotion was a luxury. Strategy was survival. Back in my apartment, the city hummed through the windows. Sirens, traffic, life going on like nothing had been stolen. I opened my laptop. One folder sat on my desktop, untouched since the day I was fired. Solace Archive. Inside were 5 years of proof. Original sketches scanned and dated. Illustrator files with version histories. Emails where Julian said things like, "This detail is genius," and "Let's build the collection around your concept." Production notes. Fabric invoices. Manufacturer confirmations. I hadn't collected them for revenge. I'd collected them because I loved my work. And because somewhere deep down, I'd known. My phone buzzed again. A message from Mila Ree, a junior pattern maker who'd quit Virance a month after I did. I'm watching the live stream. Arden, this is yours. I typed back. I know, are you safe to talk? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Yes, but Julian's panicking. He knows you're out there. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Good, I said aloud. I wasn't alone in this anymore. After I was fired, I'd vanished quietly. No posts, no interviews, no public breakdown. The industry assumed I'd folded. What they didn't see were the late-night coffees with former interns, the long walks with fabric buyers who suddenly remembered my name, the burner phone I bought because paranoia had finally stopped being a joke. People talk when they're angry, and Julian had left a trail of them. By the time Look 6 hit the runway, my plan was locked. I wouldn't interrupt the show. I would let him have his moment. Because humiliation only works when there's an audience. I built the site in silence. A clean white page, no branding, no ads, no dramatics. Just a title. This collection was not his. Below it, a countdown clock synced to the runway schedule. I uploaded the files carefully, each document watermarked, each image annotated, each email thread highlighted with dates and sender IDs. Not accusations, evidence. At the bottom of the page, one sentence. Released during the Virance Fall runway show. My finger hovered over the publish button. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. This wasn't just about credit anymore. This was about consequences. I thought about Julian leaning back in his chair, calling me emotional when I asked for a byline. I thought about the meetings where my ideas were praised, then rephrased in his voice. I thought about signing that NDA with shaking hands, believing silence was safer. I was done being safe. The phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Arden, Julian said, breathless. What are you doing? I didn't respond. Listen, he continued, voice tight. We can fix this. Quietly. You want a payout? Credit next season? I laughed. A short, humorless sound. You already used my name, I said. What more could you possibly take? There was silence on the line. Then, cold, controlled. You'll destroy your career. I glanced at the screen. 8 minutes left in the show. Or I'll finally have one, I said. I hung up. The site went live as Look 12 stepped onto the runway. At first, nothing happened. Then my phone exploded. Messages, notifications, missed calls. Mila again. Editors are pulling out their phones. Someone just gasped. I refreshed Twitter. My name was trending. Meg Arden Solis. Who designed violence, fashion theft? Screenshots of my sketches next to runway photos spread like wildfire. Journalists tagged Virence's official account. Legal analysts chimed in. Designers I'd admired for years reposted with one-word captions. Receipts. Inside the venue, the applause fractured. I watched the live stream closely now. Julian stood backstage, smiling too hard. His eyes flicked toward his phone, toward the murmurs rippling through the audience. Something was wrong. He knew it. The final look approached. My final look. A dress built like armor? The model paused at the end of the runway. And then, the live stream cut. Black screen. Gasps from the crowd. My phone rang again. This time, I didn't answer, because I already knew. The truth had walked the runway, and it wasn't done yet. The blackout lasted 7 seconds. 7 seconds of silence where the fashion world held its breath. Then the live stream snapped back on. The final model stood frozen at the end of the runway, chin lifted, lights blazing down like an interrogation. The applause never fully returned. It staggered, confused, uncertain. Backstage chaos leaked through the cameras. Someone shouted. Someone swore. Someone grabbed Julian by the arm. I leaned closer to my screen. This was the part no one rehearsed. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Journalists, unknown numbers. Old contacts who hadn't said my name in years suddenly remembered how to spell it. One message stood out. Evelyn Cross, senior editor, Mode Atlas. Arden, we need to talk. Immediately. I didn't respond. Not yet. You never answer first when the tide finally turns in your favor. You let it rise. Within minutes, Virence's official account posted a statement. We are aware of the allegations circulating online. The matter involves internal creative disputes and will be addressed through appropriate legal channels. Internal creative disputes. I laughed so hard I startled myself. They always do that. Shrink the crime until it fits in a sentence. Mila called me, voice shaking. They're escorting people out, she said. Editors are furious. Someone yelled lawsuit out loud. Good, I said calmly. Go home. Log everything you hear. Arden, she hesitated. Julian's saying you violated the NDA. I closed my eyes. There it was. The threat they always save for last. They violated authorship, I said. That NDA doesn't protect fraud. I hoped I was right. An hour later, my email inbox became a battlefield. Legal warnings, interview requests, support, threats dressed up as concern. One subject line made my hands pause. From J. Crest. No lawyer, no assistant. Just him. The email was short. You've gone too far. Take it down. We can still control this. Control. That word again. I typed my response slowly. You controlled it when I was silent. This is just documentation. I didn't send anything else. By midnight, the site traffic crashed my server twice. Screenshots of my emails hit Instagram. TikTok stitched my sketches to runway footage with dramatic music. A law professor on YouTube broke down my metadata like it was a true crime case. The comments blurred together. She built this. This happens all the time. Pay designers. I sat on my couch, knees drawn up, wrapped in a blanket I didn't remember grabbing. For the first time since Fashion Week started, I felt something close to relief. But relief is fragile, and power never gives itself back quietly. At 2:14 a.m., the knock came. Not loud, not urgent, measured. My body went cold. I checked the peephole. 2 men in suits, 1 woman, all holding leather folders. Lawyers. I didn't open the door. One of them spoke through it. Ms. Solis, we'd like to discuss an urgent injunction. Email me, I said, voice steady. This will go much better if you cooperate, the woman replied. I leaned my forehead against the door. Everything goes better when people tell the truth, I said. Silence. Then footsteps. They left. For now. The next morning, my name was on every fashion site. Not buried, not footnoted. Headlined. Former designer accuses Virence of design theft runway. Reckoning, receipts go viral. Who really designed Solace? Julian's name followed mine everywhere. Tide. Inescapable. I watched an interview clip where he smiled too hard again, insisting this was collaborative misunderstanding. But his hand shook. People notice things like that now. Evelyn Cross called again. I answered. Arden, she said, voice sharp but not unkind. You understand this could end your access to every major house. I understand, I said. But I also understand what silence costs. A pause. Then softer. Meet me. Off record. We chose a cafe in Tribeca. Neutral ground, glass walls, witnesses. She arrived with a notebook already open. I've covered fashion for 20 years, she said. This industry eats women like you. I know, I replied. I helped feed it. She studied me. Why now? I thought about that. Because they didn't just steal my work, I said. They stole my name. And I let them believe they could. Evelyn closed her notebook. This story won't stop, she said. Are you ready for that? I nodded. I was already in it. That night, a new email arrived. Not from Julian. From Virence's parent company. Subject, settlement proposal. My breath caught. The number had 6 zeros. Credit reinstatement, confidential payout, immediate takedown of the site. They wanted to buy silence again. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I minimized the email and opened my archive. Because there was one file I hadn't released yet. One thread. Dated 2 weeks before my firing. Julian writing, once she's gone, the collection is clean. My finger hovered over upload. This would burn everything. There would be no going back. My phone buzzed. A text from Mila. Do it. I looked at my reflection in the dark screen. I didn't look invisible anymore. I looked dangerous. I didn't upload the email right away. Not because I was scared, but because timing is power. I slept for 3 hours, fully dressed. My laptop still open beside me. When I woke, my inbox had multiplied like a disease. Overnight opinions had hardened. Sides were forming. That's when you strike. At 9:07 a.m., I published the final file. The subject line alone detonated. Once she's gone, the collection is clean. Julian Crest. The email appeared exactly as it had been sent. Time-stamped, unedited, brutal. Within minutes, the narrative shifted. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. This wasn't collaboration gone wrong. This was intent. Mode Atlas broke the story first. Not gossip, not speculation. A full exposé. They laid out the timeline, my sketches, the firing, the collection launch, the email. Side-by-side proof that even casual readers could follow. Other outlets followed like dominoes. The word alleged disappeared from headlines. Virence shut down its social accounts by noon. Their website redirected to a temporary maintenance page. Internally, employees were told not to comment. Designers I used to work beside began posting vague messages about creative integrity and truth surfacing. Some tagged me. Some apologized privately. I accepted neither. Not yet. Julian didn't call. His lawyer did. She was calm, polished, deadly. Ms. Solace, she said, you've made your point. Now you're damaging multiple parties. I documented facts, I replied. Damage is a side effect of exposure. A pause. We're prepared to offer a revised settlement. Credit? I asked. Yes. Public acknowledgement? Yes. Julian's resignation? Silence. Then, carefully. That's complicated. I smiled. So is theft. By evening, rumors broke. Julian Crest was stepping away temporarily. Temporary. The industry's favorite word for consequence avoidance. But it wasn't enough. Because silence doesn't undo precedent. The backlash came next. Anonymous accounts dissected my past. Former colleagues questioned my temperament. Someone leaked an old photo of me crying backstage, framed as proof I was unstable. I watched it all with a strange calm. This was the tax women pay for refusing to be quiet. Then something unexpected happened. Designers started speaking. Not influencers, not celebrities. Working designers, people with 15 followers and calloused hands. Stories poured out. Ideas stolen, credits erased, names removed from tags, NDAs weaponized. They used my name as a reference point, like Arden Solace. My throat tightened. I hadn't planned that. Evelyn Cross called again. "You've opened something," she said. "They can't close it now." "What happens to me?" I asked. "A beat. You'll be blacklisted by some houses," she said honestly, "and quietly admired by others." I exhaled. "That's fine. Because admiration doesn't require permission." That night, I received one final message from Julian. No threats, no bargaining. Just one line. "You ruined everything." I stared at it for a long time, then typed back. "No," I corrected the record. I blocked his number. At midnight, the parent company released a statement. Julian Crest was officially terminated. An internal audit was underway. The Solace collection was suspended. My site traffic spiked again. But I wasn't watching the numbers anymore. I was watching myself. For the first time, I wasn't bracing for impact. I was standing upright. The next morning, an envelope slid under my door. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you for not backing down." I folded it carefully. Not everything meaningful comes with a contract. But the story wasn't over. Because exposure creates space. And space demands vision. As I opened my laptop, a blank document stared back at me. No brand, no gatekeeper. Just possibility. I titled the file, "What Comes Next?" And for the first time in years, I smiled without fear. The blank document stayed open for hours. I typed one sentence, deleted it, typed another, closed the laptop, opened it again. Freedom is louder than people think. It doesn't whisper instructions. It asks a question and waits. By noon, the emails started coming. Not apologies, not settlements. Invitations. A creative incubator in Brooklyn wanted to talk. A legal nonprofit asked if I'd testify anonymously. 2 manufacturers I'd worked with years ago wrote, "If you build something, we're in." I read them slowly, carefully. This wasn't momentum. This was gravity shifting. I met Mila for lunch in a diner neither of us had ever noticed before. No PR, no journalists, just chipped mugs and sunlight. "You okay?" she asked. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I'm awake." She smiled. "That's worse, and better." We laughed. Then she leaned in. "People are asking who you are without them." I looked at my hands. "I'm still figuring that out." That afternoon, I walked through garment district streets I used to avoid. I wasn't hiding anymore. Someone recognized me near a fabric shop. "Arden," she said softly. "Thank you." That was it. No speech, no praise. Just truth, handed back. At home, I reopened the document. This time, I didn't write a brand name. I wrote a principle. No silent ownership, no erased labor, no borrowed credit. I added a 4th line. No fear. The settlement email resurfaced. They'd upped the number, attached a deadline. I didn't respond. Because money offered after exposure is just hush money with better grammar. Instead, I drafted a post. Not defensive, not angry. Clear. I explained my process, my authorship, why documentation matters, why this wasn't revenge, it was correction. I hit publish. The response was immediate, not viral, sustained. People shared it with comments like, "Read this," and "This explains everything." Clarity lasts longer than outrage. That night, a new message arrived. From a blocked number, forwarded through a friend. Julian had accepted a position overseas. Quiet, untitled, buried. I felt nothing. Closure doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels like weight leaving your shoulders without asking permission. Before bed, I titled the document at last. Solace, unowned. Not a brand. A statement. I saved it. Tomorrow I'd begin sketches again. Not for approval, not for proximity, not for survival. For myself. As I turned off the light, my phone buzzed once more. Unknown sender. "If you build this the right way, we'll fund it." No control. Full credit. No signature. No pressure. Just possibility. I lay there in the dark, heart steady. They once told me my power came from being near them. They were wrong. My power came from walking away. But building something honest means stepping back into fire. And I knew. The hardest part wasn't exposure. It was what came after.